Hi, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. This is the Great and Powerful Zilla, and today I'm bringing you World of Tanks with this tank right here, one of the original bad boys of World of Tanks, the Tier 10 Soviet IS-4. This used to be the monster of the battlefield together with the IS-7. All right, back in the day when dinosaurs roamed the earth, right? Okay, let's talk a little bit about the history of this tank. This tank was started development in 1943 as a replacement for the IS-2. Okay, now the Soviets had dozens of these heavy tank projects going on at the same time, and this was among them, okay, in the development process. So, it started development in 1943, but it didn't start production until 1946. At that point, the war was over, and the purpose of the tank was no longer necessary. Okay. Besides, they were moving toward the T-10M, which was the biggest and baddest Soviet heavy tank that was produced during that time. The problem for the Soviets was the L-7 105 millimeter gun, and none of their tanks could deal with that weapon. Okay, but the Soviet idea is we'll make more and we'll just mount bigger and bigger guns on our tanks, and that's what they did. Less than 250 of these were built, and it lingered around in service until around the 1960s when they just decided to put them on the Chinese border as pillboxes. That's right, the Soviets actually feared the Chinese more than they did NATO at the time. So what do you got in the game? Well, what you got in the game is a vehicle with good sloped frontal armor, a bit of a shot trap underneath the main gun, 122 millimeter gun, and a 12.7 millimeter anti-aircraft machine gun. Okay, in real life, soldiers are reported to have liked this tank a little bit better ergonomically than the IS-3 because the turret had more room. But you see that little panel in the front of the turret? That's actually designed so that they could remove the entire gun and replace it. Okay. So again, Soviet philosophy, this tank is simple, it's easy to fix, it's rugged, dependable, And again, the Soviet philosophy was that their heavy tanks would punch a hole through any enemy lines, and then their medium tanks, the T-54s, later on the T-62, would pour through this gap in what they call a operational maneuver group. Okay? So these were the tanks of the heavy tanks of the breakthrough armies. Okay? Some people, they ask a bunch of questions about Soviet tanks. Look, I've been inside of them. They're a nightmare to fight in. I can't imagine. But again, the Soviet philosophy was we make more. And besides, if you're facing these things, let's say you're in a Centurion or an M48, and you're facing these things in West Germany, you're not going to see one of them. You're going to see 2 dozen, 3 dozen of them. They're coming at you in waves. And the Soviets actually came, and their tank formations, they came in formation, in line abreast. So they actually came into formation like a parade ground formation. And some people ask me about the ditching log on the side of the tank. What's it used for? Why do Soviet tanks always have a log? That's almost a meme. What they would do is they take this log and they put it in front of the tracks and chain it to the tracks. And the tank stuck. Then as the tracks went around, that log would dig into the dirt or the mud or whatever and help the tank get out. So it's an unditching log. That's what it's there for. It's almost become a meme in the game. Every Soviet tank had a log. Also, people ask me about the fuel tanks on the outside of the tank. The Soviets did not carry fuel for the tank on the outside of the tank. What these tanks were reserve fuel tanks. They carried these reserves on the back of the tank, and then when there was a quiet time, they would park somewhere, camouflage the tank, what have you, and then hand pump the fuel out of these drums into the bunkers of the tank, which are situated right about here. Okay? So the IS-4 wasn't a very big success with the Soviet Army. It was one among many heavy tank projects that the Soviets had during that period of time from 1943 onwards up until the 1950s. Again, there were dozens of these. In the game, this is one of your original bad boys, and it's an excellent, excellent tank. It's got good sloped armor. It does have its weak spots, and it has been power creeped quite a bit, especially with the gold ammunition flying around the way it is. Okay? But it can still be a very viable and very useful tank to have on the battlefield. It's not slow either. It moves along at a pretty good pace. And, with a properly trained crew and a player that's better than me, it can probably do very, very well. What I'm going to show you here is a battle that I did earlier today on Tundra. Spoiler alert, our team lost that battle. But I'm going to point out some of the strengths that this tank has and what it can do. Okay? In the meantime, in real life, this thing actually carried 22 rounds of 122 millimeter ammunition, which loaded left-handed. You let that sink in for a minute. How many people do you know are left-handed? This thing loaded left-handed. Okay? So you can imagine the rate of fire on this thing was not very big. But again, it wasn't alone. It came into battle with lots of friends and artillery on top of it. And look at the tech tree. It's still tier 10. It's still a viable tank. It's been power creeped quite a bit, but now it has lots of contemporaries. Back in the day, it was just this, the IS-7. I think it was this 704, Object 704, and I believe the T-54, T-55 was top dog back then. Okay, so things have changed, and it has been power creeped, but it's still a good tank. So let's take a look at the battle to come, and I'll talk to you when we get to that point. Okay? Bye. Okay, we're on Tundra. You'll please forgive as you hear my little cartoon characters going off. It just makes my game a little bit more fun to play. Now, if you look at the mini-map, you'll see Tundra has three areas. You got the right, which is the hill. That's where medium tanks fight. You got this center pass here, which is usually guarded by tank destroyers. And that's a bridge that goes directly into the enemy cap. And then over on the left, that's where heavy tanks generally tend to fight. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this bridge because sometimes you'll find that the bridge is completely unguarded and the enemy team has completely sold out left and right. Now this has two ways it can go. I can either have great benefit from it by getting into the enemy rear and causing havoc, or I can get myself outflanked and get crossfire from two directions. Okay? So those are one of the two ways it can go. So I set up behind this bush thinking I'm being clever. Again, it goes to show how long it's been since I've been playing this game on an active level. All right. And my mini-map's pinging off saying, hey, you've been spotted, you're being targeted, da, 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 da. Pay attention, pay attention. And I don't. I don't, And there's a shot. Ooh, there's another shot. Okay, that's a big tank destroyer. All right. And it's shooting at me. And now we got artillery shooting at me. Okay. And again, the damage is not that great. They damaged my tracks and they shaved a bit of my health off. That was more artillery than anything else. So I'm going to go to the other side of this abandoned train, which is going to provide me with some cover from the fire. But now something else has got that tank destroyer's attention over on the hillside, and the artillery continues to take a shot at me. So I'm going to make a bold move and push across this bridge. So here we go, all the way across the bridge. And my crew is a little bit stunned. Once they become unstunned, you'll see the tank accelerate a lot faster. So I'm going to cross this railroad bridge, and I'm going to see if I can't come up on the rear of the enemy, and I do.
You yet, my pretties?
It's a light tank.
Waiting would be best.
And he knows better than to sit there. Okay, so he's getting out of there. But he abandons his friends, and I'm able to get behind this big tank destroyer. And I don't know what they were thinking, because for a tomato like me to get up behind you like this and sit there, and you don't do anything about it? Yeah, there's a problem. Okay, so there he is.
That's her right. I'm so sorry to have scared you, my friends.
So I'm going to get right up on him.
You're going to love
And he has some surprise something. And I'm going to swing it back around, put my frontal armor where it's needed the most. And I'm bouncing
Not
around.
yet, my pretties.
I'm coming after this guy over here. And he gets distracted. And it allows me to come up very slowly around this corner and pop him.
No offense, Sugar Cube, but it looks like some ponies getting themselves all worked up over nothing.
And here I go around this corner.
Come on!
They took my track out.
One small thing.
And I got hit again. Again, my health is getting whittled down. It looks like on a mini-map, it looks like we've lost the hill over to... Well, I'm facing it directly front in my tank right now, but it looks like we lost the hill. Okay? So I'm going to come around here and poke around, see what I can see. I know there's tank destroyers back up there. I know the artillery is not too far away from where I'm at. Okay? Then there it is. There it is. And I got in that crossfire I was telling you about. And look, that British light tank is carrying that 105 L7. That tank, that gun was world famous and great. So anyway, that's the IS-4. I hope you guys have a great day. Be good to each other. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.